Greetings. I am Madhav PVL from KL University and I am a peer mentor in artificial intelligence. So, as a part of my peer mentoring, I need to make a video vlog with a topic of a choice. So, I decided to make a video on this topic, which is named as a multi-layer perceptron. So, I'm just going to explain you some of the basic things regarding the multi-layer perceptron. So, all about multi-layer perceptron. So, what I want to explain. So, directly getting into a multi-layer perceptron doesn't make any sense. So, that's the reason I want to just divide the whole video into three parts, like three components, like introduction to perceptron, what is changing weights, what is a multi-layer perceptron. So, if you are perfect with this two, then the third one will be easier. So, that's the reason I am making this video into three parts. So, let's get started. So, perceptron is nothing but it's a very basic model which is used to build artificial neural networks. So, it is just we can just describe an artificial neural network with the help of a perceptron. So, it is a real value which calculates the linear combinations of inputs and generates the output. So, that is a basic definition, a Google definition of a perceptron. Whereas if we just get into deep, so this is a diagrammatical representation of this perceptron. So, here we can just see. So, it will have the summation of inputs and weights. So, what are those inputs? Inputs are nothing but the inputs which we get through this artificial neural networks and the weights of those inputs. So, the summation of this both will be will come into this part, and also there will be an activation function. So, activation function is nothing but it will just give a boost up to the particular state of that perceptron. So, activation function will just give a boost up to that particular state of a perceptron, so that we will just get the exact output which is required. So, it will have a function with which the output is generated. So, this is a diagrammatical representation of a perceptron. And then but why are we talking about the changing weights? So, changing weights is nothing but, as we can see here, so before the process gets completed, we will have some target values. So, target values are nothing but the things which come out of this output. So, the things which will come out of this output is nothing but the actual output, whereas we will just assume some values, they are the target outputs. So, we will just compare both. If they are not up to mark, then we need to just change the weights. Changing the weights is nothing but as we can't just change the inputs, we will just change the weights here, W1, W2, W3, W4. We will just change this 4 accordingly. So, according to the previous concept, if the target output is not equal to the actual output, we need to change the weights and work accordingly. So, this is a changing weights. But what is a multi-layer perceptron? So, here we can just see this perceptron is nothing but it's a summation of weights and inputs, and while going through the activation function, it will give an output. But what will happen if the output is not accordingly? So, if we just try to find out some output which is efficient, but we are unable to find it, but the second output may find it if we just know the errors which were happened in the first output. So, let me just be clear. So, here we can just see. So, first output will just get into the activation function and will just produce an output. So, sorry, this is an input. So, first input will get into the activation function and produce an output. So, after that output, according to the single layer perceptron, the output will be produced outside. So, even if there are n number of inputs, they will be connected directly to the one particular session, and there will not be any interchanges in between them. Whereas the multi-layer perceptron is something different. So, here we can just consider like the second output will be remaining same, but the output of the first one will be bring back to the second input. So, after the second input getting the first output, it will just try to correct some errors if required. So, correcting some errors and then making the whole thing efficient. So, these are the things which were done by that particular perceptron. So, if that error correction and all those stuff is done by a perceptron itself, then it is known as a multi-layer perceptron. A fully connected multi-layer network, it may have one or more hidden layers. It uses sigmoid activation function. So, what is hidden layer? So, hidden layer is nothing but before getting into the output, so basically we are having some activation function. So, as activation functions are there, here also there will be some hidden layers. So, input will be getting into the hidden layer, and hidden layer will have some basic algorithms, precise algorithms, and from those algorithms it will just get back to the output and will produce the output, and the first output which will be produced will be bring back to the next hidden layer, and that thing will be used by the remaining inputs. So in this way the whole thing works on. So let's get into this algorithm. So starting from the input layer, propagate data to the output. So this is a working functionality of a single layer perceptron. Whereas based on the output, calculate the error, it should be minimized. So the error will be calculated in the first output itself, and the remaining will be sent back. So and then back propagate, it's find its derivatives of model and update it. So the output from the first one will be bring back to the second one, and the second hidden layer will be used by the second input and the third input, and it will just produce the output. And with the help of this multi-layer perceptron, we will just get the required efficient output. So that is a use of multi-layer perceptron. Especially it is similar to the perceptron, where in this concept inputs and outputs identify the error and work accordingly. So this is a diagrammatical representation of a multi-layer perceptron, and in this also the weight changing functionalities will be occurred if required, but most probably the outputs from this multi-layer perceptron are most probably the better ones rather than that of a single layer perceptron. So I think this made some sense. Thank you for watching. Thank you.